Hour being 7:01 p.m. Monday, December 9th, 2024. I'd like to call to order the City of Laconia City Council meeting. Before we go any further, I ask you to all rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We're joined this evening by Recording Secretary, City Clerk Katie Gargano. I'd ask her to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Here.
Counselor Susie?
Council Susie is here, along with a hotel room in Manchester.
Counselor Hoffman?
Present.
Counselor Haynes?
Here.
Counselor Bogart?
Here.
Counselor Felch?
Here.
Mayor Hosmer?
Mayor Hosmer is here as well. We have a quorum. All votes tonight, if taken, will be done by roll call vote. We're also joined this evening by City Finance Director Glenn Smith. With prior notice, the City Manager Kirk Biotti is not in attendance this evening. He is out of town on a business matter. Agenda item number 7A, which is the City Council regular meeting minutes of November 25th, 2024. Minutes of the Laconia City Council meeting of November 25th, 2024 were distributed to members of the City Council on November 26th. With no corrections or changes submitted to the clerk, the minutes will be accepted as distributed. There are no consent and action items this evening. Agenda item number 9 is citizens' comments for matters not on the agenda. If you would like to speak to a matter that's not on tonight's agenda, now would be the appropriate time. Just step forward. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 13A. Under public hearings, Resolution 2024-26, approval of bonding in the amount of $1,100,000 to fund repairs and improvements to the Weirs Public Boat Docks. Notice of this public hearing is made available in the November 30th, 2024 edition of Laconia Daily Sun, posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of the SAU. Action on this item may be taken up under unfinished business this evening. At this point, I'd like to open up the public hearing at 7:04 p.m. If anyone would like to speak to this matter, now would be the appropriate time. Seeing no one has come forward to speak, I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:05 p.m. Move on to agenda item number 13B, which is public hearing for Resolution 2024-27 relative to authorizing the city manager to accept and expend a grant from the Partnership for Public Health in an amount of up to $450,000 to fund a community paramedic program within the Laconia Fire Department. Notice of this public hearing is made available in the November 30th, 2024 edition of Laconia Daily Sun and posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of the SAU. I'd like to open the public hearing on this matter at 7:05 p.m. If anyone would like to speak to this, now would be the appropriate time. Again, with no one stepping forward to speak to that matter, I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:05 p.m. Agenda item number 13C, which is a public hearing for Resolution 2024-28, approval of bonding for the purpose of purchasing a replacement ladder truck for the Laconia Fire Department. Notice of this public hearing was made available in the November 30th, 2024 edition of the Laconia Daily Sun and posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of the SAU. I'd like to open this public hearing at 7:06 p.m. If anyone here would like to speak to the matter, now would be the appropriate time. With no one stepping forward, I'd like to close the public hearing on this matter at 7:06 p.m. Again, this may be taken up under unfinished business later on this evening. Right now to agenda item number 14. 14A is our WOW Trail presentation. I know Alan Beadle is here, so you and Jennifer, or just you?
I think I'm going to go it alone, Mayor.
You're brave, but you've got good backup.
Thank you. Councilors, thanks for letting me come here and give you an update on the WOW Trail. My name's Alan Beadle. I live in Laconia, and I'm on the board and the president of the WOW Trail organization. And I just thought that some of you may not know, we are a 501c3 organization. we kind of, so we can apply for grants and, do funding and fundraising that way. But when we do a project, it's a city project. So it's always the city that signs on the dotted line. But we kind of work very closely and have over the last 15 years or so. So I'm going to give you a very brief history. I'm going to try to do this in 10 minutes. I really could speak for an hour on this, but if you wanted to talk on any of this in more detail, I'd be happy to have a cup of coffee and spend time with you and get into the weeds on it a little bit. So just going back to the history, what's interesting is in 1980, Laconia requested the Lakes Region Planning Commission to do a study. They wanted to do a 5-mile bikeway down the west side of Paugus Bay. And they asked the Planning Commission to do that study. And in 1982, the Planning Commission released a study. It turned out to be a 27-mile bike path from Meredith to Franklin, which is what we'd love to see happen. But it really, that proposal kind of fizzled. 20 years later, Fred Toll, City Councilor Fred Toll, and I and some others formed a committee, and we did a feasibility study. We had lots to work with there from the Lakes Region Planning Commission's study. And we found that it is possible to go ahead and do this. And 7 years later, we opened Phase 1 of the WOW Trail. That was from Elm Street to downtown. 6 years later, we opened Phase 2, connecting downtown to the Belmont town line. And just at that same time, Belmont opened their first section, which is 1.7 miles. So now we have 4.25 miles of contiguous recreation trail. Now, the big question people ask all the time is, well, what about Phase 3? Phase 3, the local extension would be from Lakeport to Weirs Beach. When is that going to happen? And what about Phase 4, Weirs Beach to Meredith? And we'll talk a little bit about that. First, I'd like to tell you that the WOW Trail it's the only rail trail in New Hampshire that's alongside an active railroad corridor. There's all the other rail trails, they are abandoned rail lines, so they pick up the tracks and maybe make some minor improvements, and they're done. It's not the case here, and you can see the picture. We're building alongside, and sometimes there's slopes, there's water to deal with, and so forth. So what we have here, though, is a 66-foot wide corridor that runs from Meredith, actually runs all the way up to Lincoln, but what we're interested in is Meredith down to Franklin. And that's state-owned land. That land is leased to a rail operator now. It's Patriot Rail. And because this was originally built for 2 tracks, they have one set of rail, and then it's offset. It's not right in the center of that 66 feet. It's offset to the side because they were going to put in a second rail. And that is what gives us the ability to put in this 10-foot wide bike path. So today, just a map of Elm Street down to Agway. I mentioned it's almost 4.5 miles and connecting down just before Mosquito Bridge. Now, if you have never been out on the trail, I don't know, has anyone anyone not been out on the trail? No?
No, I've been on the trail.
Okay,
Thank you.
so for the public's sake, if they haven't, if anyone's listening out there, I don't know. I didn't really draw a big crowd here, did I? So Alfred came. Alfred came. So on our website at wowtrail.org, you can take a virtual tour, and for people who would like to see what's out there. Just a little bit about today. We have a lot of partnerships in the community. This is a picture of the O-Pee-Chee Garden Club at the trailhead. The WOW Trail built this park here. We built the stairs down to the parking lot at the Lake O-Pee-Chee Inn, and it's a great example of the partnership that's possible with adjacent landowners when we build this. We have adopt-a-sections, so we have 8 adopt-a-sections, 7 are active, and we're looking for one. If the council would like to take an adopt-a-section, that'd be great. There's a constant battle out there for vegetation. It's just unbelievable how fast it grows. into the trail. So we're always cutting that back. But we have people, as I said, who have adopted their section and help us with that. We have lots of murals, artwork, community events that are out there. Recently, the Chief Canfield asked us to put safety markers. So every 1/10 of a mile now out there, we have blue markers that can identify on a 911 call where, if there's an accident out there, where to respond to. We have an ambassador program, and those are people who are regular users of the trail generally, or just big supporters of the trail, and we keep them informed. We have a Facebook page, we have an email newsletter that we invite you to follow our progress on, or lack thereof sometimes. The challenges today really is just maintenance, and it hasn't been too bad. In the last year, we did about $40,000 worth of asphalt repavement, mostly or all of it because of root cracks. So they just come in under the trail, and the bumps get big enough where they're actually kind of a danger to someone who's not paying close attention on their bike. So this is a picture of GSM asphalt out there this fall. Excuse me. The other thing to mention is our insurance premiums continue to go up. They've almost doubled in the last year. So the state requires us to have a policy that indemnifies the state of New Hampshire and the Patriot Rail in this case now. So it costs us about $8,000 or $9,000 every year to do that, in the very unlikely event that someone rides off the trail into the train and they're found to be grossly negligent. I suppose that's when it might kick in. But in the meantime, we're just throwing away $9,000 a year. I've talked to the city manager, Kirk, and asked him to see if we can have a discussion with the city's insurance company, Primex, to see if they would incorporate that. It's really not any more liability than you would get on most of the sidewalks around our city. So we'll see what happens with that. Future phases of the WOW Trail. As I said, the next logical section would be to extend the trail from Lakeport to Weirs Beach. That's almost 5 miles. We do not have the easements necessary to do that. Excuse me. So we have abutters who have indicated they would work with us for easements in 2 other cases, but there's one case, the property's for sale, they don't want to give an easement, and so there's no reason for us to move ahead and put a plan together, a detailed plan together for Lakeport to Weirs Beach until we get that easement.
Can you, sorry to interrupt you, but.
That's fine, yeah.
I'm writing a couple of questions down. Can you better describe where that property is? How?
Sure, that's the Weirs Beach
if you were-
Drive-In.
What's that again?
The Weirs Beach Drive-In.
Okay. And so the easement, the length of the easement might be how long?
300 feet
And
alongside the edge of the property. So we would expect that a future developer.
the rail side edge of the property, or the parking
Yep.
space side of the property?
Yep. Yeah, most likely a purchaser of that property would welcome to have this trail come alongside, or right through their property.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
So, I was thinking earlier how long the Colonial Theater took.
Hold on a second. May I, Mr. Mayor? You're still using the railroad right-of-way?
No, see, when you get to Channel Lane,
Okay, got it.
the 66 feet that I talked about earlier, it narrows way down. And Channel Lane is just too busy in the summertime to use for pedestrians and bicyclists. Thank you for the questions, yeah. So that's phase 3. Phase 4 would be Weirs Beach to Meredith. That would be about 2 miles in our city and 2 miles in the town of Meredith to get into Meredith. Similar challenges there, that we may need 2 or 3 easements. We have no no's yet. We're working on them. And there's 1 or 2 places where the terrain is rather challenging. It's doable, it's expensive, but, so we're trying to work through those on phase 4. This whole project, the WOW Trail going into Meredith is really part of a regional effort. And I mentioned back to the Lakes Region Planning Commission on their 27-mile. We really want to support this trail going from Meredith all the way down to Franklin. Now, in this corridor, which is, again, a state-owned right-of-way, it's along the lakes, it's along Winnipesaukee River, it's just spectacular land. 8 miles of that is completed. It's built rail trail, and that's in Laconia, Belmont, Tilton, and Franklin. But there's 16 miles of where it's not completed. Those are the 16 miles we want to get, but right now we're working on Phase 3 and Phase 4. Of course, we're going to support the efforts downstream. Many pieces have to fall into place to make this a reality, including the easements that I mentioned, and, of course, significant funding source. This could be a congressional earmark project, not necessarily a TAP grant that we've been using for some of our financing. If it's close to 10 miles between Lakeport and Meredith, it's going to exceed $10 million project. So now, we anticipate broad community support on this project. However, there will likely be a butter pushback. There will likely be lawsuits, if and when we get to that point. If we're able to extend the trail to Weirs Beach and Meredith, we literally will have a world-class rail trail on our hands in our community, giving both our residents and our visitors access to lake views, connecting just beautiful scenery with wonderful amenities along the way. I mean, look at everything you can do in Meredith, all the things to do in Weirs Beach, 4 more miles, Lakeport, another mile, Laconia. It's really a biker's dream to have this kind of beauty tied in with this kind of amenities for people to stay, to shop, to dine, to stop at the beaches. It's all there. Would definitely extend our tourist season here in the Lakes region. Now, I've listed all these benefits. I don't really feel I need to get into those. I could spend time on that, but what I want to get to next is the O-Pee-Chee Loop, unless there's any questions on the WOW Trail.
Still the big variable on this is connecting that O-Pee-Chee Loop area up to the Weirs, right? I mean,
No, the O-Pee-Chee Loop is really, let me get to that. So the O-Pee-Chee Loop is not the WOW Trail. The WOW Trail is going to go from Lakeport up the railroad corridor to Weirs Beach into Meredith. The O-Pee-Chee Loop is really a neighborhood loop designed to give our residents easier access, safer access down to the business districts of Lakeport and downtown. As you can see this loop around Lake O-Pee-Chee, it goes up Elm Street, so we'll be improving sidewalks from sometimes less than 5 feet. Some of those sidewalks are right on the edge of the road with no curbing, and it doesn't feel comfortable walking there. To 8 to 10 foot wide sidewalks with some space between the roadway, between a curb and that pathway. So we're going to call that a side path instead of a sidewalk, because bicyclists will be invited up onto that. There'll be a dashed line down the middle. You'll pass on the left, you walk on the right, and that's how that would work, like Messer Street, except a bigger gap between the trail and the road. The state of New Hampshire, we're working with our engineers in the city, wants us to have a several feet gap between the trail and the roadway. Now, if you look at this map, can you read segment A, for example, down by Elm Street? I can't tell.
no,
So-
I can't read that. At least I can't.
But you can see the whole thing. Do you mind, is it okay if I point this out here?
Yeah, of course. Whatever works for you.
We're at Elm Street here, the end of the WOW Trail.
Mm-hmm.
And we go Elm Street to 106, and then, so this first section right here is segment A, and that is the WOW Trail to Franklin Street. That will be, part or all of that will be constructed in 2025. We got a grant for part of it from the Northern Borders, and we're still waiting from Scott Everett to see whether Scott's going to build a piece or we're going to enhance the sidewalk. We're waiting for that. But from from Elm Street or Union Ave up until Doris Ray Court, or Franklin Street, excuse me, that's in the works. The next section, which will go from Franklin Street up to Hickory Stick, or just past the school, is 2028, Wes?
Probably.
Probably 2028. That's in the plans, and there's funding, that's a New Hampshire State TAP grant. That's already in the works. We have just submitted a letter of intent, the city has submitted a letter of intent for a $2.5 million grant to complete everything else on this map and come back down Shore Drive to Pleasant Street, downtown. Except it doesn't include the state school property or Ahern Park. Now, we've talked with the developers. We've introduced them to the Opeachy Loop. They're very interested in working with this and incorporating this through the Laconia Village. It would certainly add a lot of value to the residents who live there so they can safely bicycle down to one of the two business districts. So while let's see if I missed anything here. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So we have this loop. This is kind of like a very active project that we're working on. The WOW Trail Committee spent $72,000 to get this preliminary design done. And now we're just gonna take it off a piece at a time. And I think the timing's gonna work out really well with the Laconia Village concept and tying those into our community. So I'm open to questions on Opeachy Loop or the WOW Trail, but that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Alan. Your perseverance on this has been remarkable, certainly. And as you were probably aware, this was incorporating a making accommodations for a recreational trail, whether it be the WOW Trail or whatever we wanted to call it, was certainly a priority for this council when we were dealing with the state and making sure that any developer that considered the state school property fully understood that connecting with the trail was really important to the city for all the reasons you just mentioned.
I think it's gonna be really important to them. I think
I
it's
think so as
a
well. I think it
great
enhances their
amenity for
value.
the people who are thinking about buying property there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So,
Yeah, I just want to thank you and all the people that help you out, Jennifer and everybody. Also to show how much the community is for this project. How many people did you have at the Runaway Pumpkin, which is to raise money for the WOW Trail?
That was a big year. We had like 750 people there. Yep.
holy smokes.
The people really want this.
I think they do. Like I said, there's gonna be pushback, and it's gonna be loud pushback from abutters, but there's a lot of broad community support for this project. I hope we can get there.
Thank you.
As a regular user of the WOW Trail, thank you very much and love the work, the rehab work you've done on the pavement this year.
Thanks, yeah, it's better, isn't
Makes,
it?
makes it a little easier on skinny tires.
My pleasure, thank you.
Another question before you leave. You suggested that the city council should sponsor section or adopt a spot on the.
I
WOW
was
Trail.
joking, yeah, no.
No, but I took it serious.
Mark, one, all right?
You may have been joking, but I think I took it seriously. What would that entail?
Well, a couple times a year to get a crew, and it doesn't have to be, all the city council, but to get friends and family to come out for a day. Or usually, I try to keep it to 2 hours. Anytime I ask the volunteers to come out, I ask them to come out for 2 hours. And everyone brings some gloves and some cutters, and it's just cutting brush back.
So is there a space that's open? I'm not even sure whether the council will go along with this.
I
but
will
think we
forward
certainly
that
should.
space, and I'll show it to you, yeah.
Okay, great.
I appreciate you
We look forward to
considering that.
adopting it. We'll do it.
Thanks. Thank you all. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 15, which is the mayor's report. Just briefly, a couple of counselors here, Counselor Felch, Counselor Haynes, Counselor Cheney joined me at the 49th Laconia Christmas Village this past week. really a remarkable event for the city, and appreciation, an expression of appreciation from myself and the council to the folks who put this all together. And this is no easy task to stand up and to run and to make it a pleasurable experience for both adults and the children of the city. So thank you, and I will forget people here because I don't have a complete list, but certainly Amy Lovisek and her team and the work they've done there, great work. Skip and Cheryl Hounsel, Mrs. Claus and Santa, we can never leave them out. This was I believe, their 20th year of volunteering there. And certainly Lakes Region Home Builders and Remodelers, Hewitt Tech, and the mayor of Laconia Village, Brianna O'Hara. Thank you very much for your efforts. It's one of the things that really defines what community is in the city of Laconia. And it's a great event to participate in each and every year. Also reminds me of our former counselors, Armin Baldock and certainly Bob Hamill. Bob Hamill being one of the original volunteers, and Armin and his brothers being the original developers of Christmas Village. So thank you, one and all. Great job. I will look to committee reports right now. Are there any committee reports? How about council comments? Tried to skip over you. Just kidding. Just mixed you up a little there.
Well, I want to add to what you were saying about Christmas Village. I've been here 50-some-odd years. I've never been there. The other night.
Because you were a bad
Well,
boy and you on Santa's naughty list,
Yeah,
that's why.
I'll tell you.
Finally
There's
cleaned up
plenty
your
of-
act and you were welcomed.
My wife decided
plenty
that
of
I
coal.
wanted to go this year and see if I could help. And they put me downstairs handing out discs that were Christmas ornaments and stickers to go on them. And I had the most fun I've had in forever. And if any of you think even remotely you might be interested next year, don't miss out. Because I'm telling you, those kids will eat your heart out in an instant. I had the time of my life. If you told me I was going to enjoy it, I'd still be laughing. Except I've been there and it was worth it.
Good.
Now, if I can get to my usual list of grievances.
You go back to being grumpy. Now, keep in mind, the city manager is not here, so.
Well, that's why I have a much longer list tonight, because he's not here.
Great.
I would ask that the finance director ask the manager for a report at our next meeting about the status of the property at the corner of Roller Coaster and Route 106. It seems to take forever. I'm hoping to hear that we're closer to fruition. Second, I'm sure the city engineer is aware of my concerns about the do not enter sign on Lexington. And the answer I got from the city manager was, we can't enforce no through traffic from this time to this time, but we can enforce do not enter. Both of those were passed by the city council at different times. Pleasant Street, or Province Street downtown has been no through traffic for as long as I've been here. And when I was chief, we enforced it with some regularity. I've read the state statutes, and it's my understanding, I will stand corrected if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding if this council passes an ordinance that includes no through traffic between 3 and 5 or whatever it is up there, that's an ordinance that can be enforced. Just as no through traffic.
Right.
One of my constituents who originally complained to me said, my aunt and uncle from Beck came down, I gave them directions to get here. Unfortunately, they got here at 3 or 4 or whatever time it was. Turn on Lexington and see no through traffic and have to call and ask, where do I go to get to your house? And it just seems kind of silly to me that we don't make it no through traffic from this time to this time, I will have a discussion with the police chief and show him the statute. I think they can enforce it if they do nothing more than give out warnings. But I'd like to have someone explain to me what they're hanging their hat on, that the police department can't enforce no through traffic versus do not enter. So, if someone can at a later date, and I hope you'll take a note and ask the manager to get me his understanding. of
Certainly,
what-
that would be, Council Cheney, that would be something that may be under the purview of public safety and government operations and ordinances, both committees you're on, so
Right.
encourage you
Well,
to take the lead on that.
But I think we should research, did the city council initially pass an ordinance saying no through traffic, or did they pass an ordinance saying do not enter? Then we have an option to fix that. It's my belief that the original ordinance passed by the city council was no through traffic during these hours.
So what I would, so I guess my point is here, you should take it up in your committee and come back with a
Okay.
report, so we can act on it if you think we should.
Okay, thanks. I will. All kidding aside, I will.
Sure.
I had made a note about status of our discussions with the hospital, and I remember there was some comments about and it may have been the manager and I, or it may have been in here, but the city should talk to the AG's office about the requirements and are they being met? And I wanted to know if we've done that at the next meeting. And if we have, what have we learned? If we haven't, then I would ask that we make that connection to find out whether or not they're meeting their obligations.
So we could respond to that. There was a request from the council to pursue perhaps engaging with outside counsel
Yes.
to represent the city. And I was not part of that discussion, but have learned, and I think it's one of my concerns, I'm not quite sure what standing we have to hire outside counsel and challenge what this organization does. I believe it is in the purview of the Attorney General's office
Correct.
and
That
as
was
a
what
nonprofit.
I was told. As a matter of fact, I believe that the manager told me that the outside counsel said we should go to the AG's office with our concerns. So I'm asking for some sort of a report about, have we gone forward with asking the AG, are they meeting the requirements that they're supposed to meet? The final item is, I know at some point here, we're supposed to discuss the Taylor Home agreement, and I'd ask that we put that off for a little while until, having read the agreement, it's my understanding they're supposed to have provided the city with financial statements. Have you received those?
This is the pilot you're talking about, is that correct?
Yes.
It's a renewal of the payment in lieu of
Yes,
taxes.
Yes.
Council Cheney, I have not received those, but they might not necessarily come to my office.
Well, there are statutory or contractual deadlines of when they have to provide certain information to us. And I would like to know, A, that we've received that information and that it's been reviewed before we go forward,
We'll find out.
if that's okay, Mr. Mayor.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with you requesting that
Thank you.
until you make a decision. No, sir.
And that's it for me, Mr. Mayor. Thank
Any
you.
other council comments? Council Felch.
Yes, and that item is on the table, so we can just leave it on the table.
Yep.
And to Christmas Village, I brought my daughter there several years when she was young. Anybody that has a child, wants to just see the children, it's a great event. Lots of people get together to put this on in our community. And along with that, the children's auction, Greater Lakes Region Children's Auction, starts tomorrow, 9 to 7, Tuesday through Friday. And as we always say, and it's very true, we need more items. We need about 1,500 more items to make it through Friday. As always, we'll be hollering until Thursday, and then everybody will come through. So please try to come through earlier if you can. We'll be there all week. Stop by and say hi. We're at the Belknap Marketplace in the old CVS location. So stop up and say hi. All you counselors, mayor, come on up, ask for me. I'll give you a tour of what's going on. I know I have some of you in the past, so thank you.
Council Felch. Any other council comments? Council Haynes.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just quickly, people that are responsible for the downtown, it absolutely looks wonderful.
Yes.
The tree, the decorations, everything, it looks great.
Good point.
Shout out to the folks that put together the lighting on Canal Street as well. I don't know if you've seen that.
It looks
in the winter.
great.
It's another one that looks terrific.
It looks great.
Yeah, absolutely. How about committee reports? No. Or liaison reports? Anybody have a liaison report this evening?
I can go real quick. I met with Motorcycle Week Association today. Everything's moving forward. Still looking for more sponsors, but it's going great.
Good. Moving on to agenda item number 19, citizens request to comment on current agenda items. If there are citizens here in the audience who'd like to speak to current agenda items, now would be the appropriate time. Seeing as no one has stepped up, we'll move right along. Glenn, were you handling the city manager's report tonight, or are we skipping it? And
I think
It's
it's
okay
been
for you.
deferred until the next meeting.
very good, thank you. Let's move along to item number 21 under new business, which is allocation of remaining state and local fiscal recovery funds. This has to do with the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds. So I'll read this, and certainly for the record, in 2021 and 2022, City of Laconia received coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds totaling approximately little over $1.7 million through the state of New Hampshire. The funds were for general use and intended to offset the impact of the COVID pandemic on city operations. Since that time, the monies have been used to fund more than 30 projects, ranging from money to be used for economic development, the purchase of an ambulance equipment, security upgrades, and infrastructure improvements. Under terms of the allocation, all funds must be committed by December 31st, 2024, and spent by December 31st, 2026. Due to savings in certain projects and a small balance of unallocated funds, the city anticipates a current uncommitted balance of $127,500 on December 31st. City manager proposes that the city use the uncommitted balance to offset excess welfare expenses incurred since July 1st in the amount of $103,000 and to cover the city portion of the cost of new voting machines. This amounts to 50% of the total cost, or $24,500. So that takes us up to approximately, well, right on the money. This allocation of funds would be, the grand total would be $127,500, which is the balance remaining in the coronavirus relief funds the city has. The city manager recommends allocating all remaining state and local fiscal recovery funds for use in offsetting welfare expenses and to cover the city's portion of the purchase of voting machines. So right now, before we move to the discussion, certainly after the motions here, looking for a motion to move to approve the allocation of remaining state and local fiscal recovery funds for use in offsetting welfare expenses in the amount of $103,000 and to cover the city's portion of the purchase of new voting machines in the amount of $24,500. So made by Councilor Felch, seconded by Councilor Haynes. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Mayor?
Yes.
Does that at $24,500 cover the total cost of the voting machines?
It seems to me
We had already
this is
allocated
50% of the total cost. Is that correct?
Okay.
Yes, and the state is offering a grant to cover the other half.
In its entirety?
Yep, so
Oh.
ev-
We'll have
for
all-
every machine that we get replaced, we have 7 of them, they're giving us $3,500 for each machine.
Nice.
How many total machines in the city right now?
7,
Okay, and any backups?
1 backup. So it goes to each ward, and then we have 1 spare.
Got it. So 6 in use, 1 as a backup. Will this replace all 7 units? It will. So we'll have all brand-new units.
Yes.
Terrific. Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns on this motion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes?
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Moving on to item number 22 under unfinished business. On to item number 22A, which is approval of bonding in the amount of $1,100,000 to fund repairs and improvements to the Weirs Public Boat Docks. The existing public boat docks at the Weirs are several decades old and in need of repair. Additionally, the spacing of the docks is not compatible with the newer, larger, wider boats that are now common on Lake Winnipesaukee. The proposed project will repair and upgrade the docks and change the footprint to allow increasing the length of the docks and allow for more space between docks. This is being sought as a tax-exempt bond. Approval may limit the city council's ability to lease dock space to for-profit entities in the future due to IRS regulations concerning the for-profit use of tax-exempt bond funds. At the November 25th, 2024 City Council meeting, a motion was approved to schedule a public hearing on this matter. That public hearing was held earlier this evening. The cost of this bond will depend on the interest rate at the time of the issue. Given current rates, it's anticipated that the cost over the proposed 20-year term will be $569,000. It is proposed that the bond will be funded through the Weirs Tax Increment Financing District. The city manager recommends approving this resolution authorizing bonding for the purpose of funding repairs and improvements to the Weirs Public Boat Docks, with funding to be provided through the Weirs Tax Increment Financing District. There's a series of 3 motions associated with this matter. The first is to waive a reading of Resolution 2024-26 in its entirety and to read by title only, so made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes?
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
With 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Next, looking for a motion to move a second reading of Resolution 2024-26 relative to approval of bonding in the amount of $1,100,000 to fund repairs and improvements to the Weirs Public Boat Docks. So made by Councilor Felch, seconded by Councilor Cheney. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, I have discussion.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, I know I brought it up when it first came up, but I'm not sure if this is where to bring it up again, but I would like to see us work along. We do parking meters on the street. I think we should do some kind of same issue on the boat docks.
I would say this is probably not the appropriate time to bring it up, but certainly a matter could be added to an agenda at future meetings. This is only for funding the structure of it and not charging for parking, which I think would be subject to a public hearing and more further discussion. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes?
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Finally, on this matter, we're looking for a motion to approve Resolution 2024-26 relative to approval of bonding in the amount of $1,100,000 to fund repairs and improvements to the Weirs Public Boat Docks, and further to authorize the city manager to sign all documents related to this matter. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Felch. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Seeing and hearing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes?
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Agenda item number 22B, Resolution 2024-27, relative to authorizing the city manager to accept and expend a grant from the Partnership for Public Health in an amount up to $450,000 to fund a community paramedic program within the Laconia Fire Department. This has been subject to 2 public hearings over the past couple of council meetings. Laconia Fire Department has been awarded the Community Paramedic Program grant in the amount not to exceed $450,000 to fund the Collaborative Mobile Integrated Health Program between the Laconia Fire Department and Partnership for Public Health. A Health Resources and Services Administration Northern Borders grant was awarded to fund the entirety of the 3-year program. A memorandum of agreement between the City of Laconia and the Partnership for Public Health has been attached. It was been created, and approval will be needed to exchange grant funds. The following breakdown for the cost of each of the 3 years. The first year is $190,000. Year 2, $130,000. Year 3, $130,000. At the November 25th, 2024 City Council meeting, a motion was approved to schedule this public hearing on this matter. Public hearing, as I indicated, was held earlier this evening. This report was filed, submitted by Tim Jubert, the Fire Chief, Laconia Fire Department. He does recommend the City Council approve the proposed funding and MOA between the City of Laconia and Partnership for Public Health for the 3 years of the Collaborative MIH program in the amount of $450,000. This matter has a series of 3 motions. The first is to motion to move to waive a reading of Resolution 2024-27 in its entirety, read by title only. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Haynes. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes?
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. That's okay. We can do it now. I figured it would come up. Second motion on this matter. Looking for a motion to move a second reading of Resolution 2024-27 relative to authorizing the city manager to accept and expend a grant from the Partnership for Public Health in an amount up to $450,000 to fund a community paramedic program within the Laconia Fire Department, and further to authorize the city manager to sign all documents related to this matter. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Hoffman. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Councilor Hoffman.
Yeah, I just want to point out, we got a letter from a citizen, Rosalind Dutile.
Say Rosalind Dutile or Rosalind Fenn, it's on the bottom.
Oh, okay. You all have a copy of it, but she just wanted to express her support for this initiative. I don't know, should I read the whole letter?
You may, or I'm happy to do it as well, so whatever you prefer.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so we received an email from a concerned citizen about this matter. I want to read it into the record prior to the vote. This is directed towards Councilor Hoffman. Would you please be so kind as to read this during the meeting on Monday the 9th, as I am unable to attend? Would greatly appreciate you doing so. My name is Rosalind Fenn. I live at 90 Messer Street in Laconia. I'm unable to attend tonight's meeting as I am a paramedic working in a nearby community in a 911 truck. I have worked in the local ER and EMS community for the past 15 years. During the healthcare collapse that came with COVID, I saw firsthand the impact this had on our ER and our EMS systems. They have become overrun and misused. This is exhausting our providers and available services. An MIH program in Laconia with the ability to expand to potentially the entire Lakes region would not only be beneficial, but a healthcare miracle. This would allow those that are not able to see a primary care physician and do not require the life-saving interventions of an ER to be cared for and followed at home under the direct supervision of a medical doctor. This not only takes the burden off of the EMS system, but takes the burden off our population. Many of these patients do not have the financial means to pay for expensive ER copays or ambulance transports, let alone the cab fare home. This will free up resources to be available for true life-saving capabilities that 911 and the ER should be used for. I've talked about a program like this for years and how beneficial it would be, not just for Laconia. I am in full support of this and have full faith under the direction of our local EMS director, Laconia Fire, and the Bureau of EMS, that this program will grow and be sustainable for years to come, even after the 3-year grant period. Paramedicine is something that I am very passionate about and very happy to see that it's branching out even further into the community and to touch more lives. It's just outstanding. This is signed off on by Rosalind Fenn. Is there any further discussion or comments that anyone would like to make in regards to this? Councilor Felch.
I just want to say that this is a great program and a great opportunity for the city of Laconia.
Thank you. Yes, Councilor.
Mr. Mayor, I first started talking about a program in Concord called Paramedic Intercept, which is the same sort of program. And I've been a strong supporter of this idea. Counselor Felch and I have both championed this repeatedly over the last several years, and I'm thrilled to see it come to fruition. I really am. I mean that sincerely. Thank you.
If there's no further discussion or questions, I'd have to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes.
Counselor Susie?
Yes,
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Finally, on this matter, looking for a motion to move to approve Resolution 2024-27 relative to authorizing the city manager to accept and expend a grant from the Partnership for Public Health in an amount up to $450,000 to fund a community paramedic program within the Laconia Fire Department, and to further authorize the city manager to sign all documents related to this matter. So made by Counselor Phelps, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes.
Counselor Susie?
yes,
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
That's 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Congratulations, and thank you, Chief, for you and your team leading the way on this. Agenda item number 22C, Resolution 2024-28, approval of bonding for the purpose of purchasing a replacement ladder truck for the Laconia Fire Department. Laconia Fire Department is seeking to purchase a replacement ladder truck. The ladder truck in need of replacement is 26 years old, in poor condition, has reached the end of its useful life, can no longer pass the required annual safety test. At the November 25th, 2024 City Council meeting, a motion was approved to schedule a public hearing in this matter. Public hearing was heard earlier this evening, The exact fiscal impact is conditional upon interest rates at the date of issuance. Based on current rates, the interest cost over the proposed 20-year term is estimated to be $840,000. The city manager recommends approving this resolution authorizing bonds to purchase a replacement ladder truck. 13 ladder 5 in the amount of $1,725,000. Right now, looking for a motion to move to waive a reading of Resolution 2024-28 in its entirety and to read by title only. So made by Counselor Bogart, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes.
Counselor Susie? Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Next on this matter, looking for a motion to move a second reading of Resolution 2024-28 relative to authorizing bonds and notes in the city in the amount of $1,725,000 for the purchase of a replacement ladder truck for the Laconia Fire Department. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Hoffman. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes.
Counselor Susie?
yes,
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
That's 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. As an aside, on this, there was a request from the council at last meeting about the amount the city has bonded, what our capacities are. We stand on our bonding capacity and utilization at this point. Would you be able to address that before we move on to this next one?
Yeah, certainly. As of the end of our last fiscal year, our last audited year,
Yes.
the city had outstanding of about $23 million in outstanding debt, which represents about 19% of our statutory limit of debt. So we're hovering just about that 20%.
How much is coming off the books in the next couple of years?
There's not a lot coming off the books in the last couple of years. It kind of runs in cycles. And as you know, over the last couple of years, we've had probably 3 bonds drop off, and I think it's going to be another 2 to 3 years before another bond drops off.
So by adding this bond on top of it, we're still, what's our percentage, our utilization on it?
I would say we would be, with all the bonds we're talking about now, we would be probably well up 25% of our statutory limit.
Thank you. Council satisfied with that?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith, I appreciate it.
Welcome.
Finally, on this matter, looking for a motion to move to approve Resolution 2024-28 relative to authorizing bonds and notes of the city in the amount of $1,725,000 for the purchase of a replacement ladder truck for the Laconia Fire Department, and to further authorize the city manager to sign all documents related to this matter. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Felch. Is there any further discussion on this? Seeing none, hearing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes.
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Hoffman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogart?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
That's 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Congratulations again, Chief, and best of luck on your new truck. With nothing else on the agenda this evening, I'd like to call an end to this city council meeting at
We have a
7:57.
finance committee after.
There is a finance committee meeting after this, and we're going to adjourn this meeting at 7:57 PM. Thank you very much, everyone.
I just think I'm obligated to ask